My name's Gail Lewis. We're inviting students to come and think about some of the complex issues that surround us every day as we go about our lives. Like, how do we make sense, for example, of at one extreme the forms of violence and abuse and trauma that every day you pick up the paper, you're on the tube, you're on the bus, your friends tell you about, that just go on endlessly, as though the world is organised by things of hatred and violence, and that's the quality of interaction between individuals and groups of people. And then on the other hand, we hear about moments of extraordinary generosity, care, love, the ways in which from the smallest thing, maybe somebody at the supermarket helps someone in a completely unexpected moment. And then you see another version of interaction, of warmth and care, consideration, sometimes among strangers, sometimes among people who really already love each other. And in our programme we want to understand, how can you put those things together? How can we understand them? What are the resources around through which we might make sense of those processes, those modes of interaction? And they're modes of interaction that convey both social life, the world that we enter into that's operating according to invisible rules and structures and codes, if you like. We know how to behave in the world. And then our personal, emotional and psychic life, the ways in which we make sense of ourselves, of our relationships, of our ambitions, of our regrets, all of those things. And we think that in our programme, Psychosocial Studies, called that deliberately to hold together the individual, psychic, emotional aspects of life alongside the social, cultural, institutional aspects of life. Because what's distinctive about this programme is it doesn't separate those out. To study the programme, what you do is you do some core modules called things like love, hate, power, bodies. I mean, all things that you think, hey, what are these? What's the relationship between power and love, for example? We might think about that we already know a relationship between power and hate, because we can think of that as power as domination over people. But is there something about love that takes us into ways of understanding both the more negative aspects of interaction as well as the more warm, positive? Similarly with hate, can we invert it and say that in the most warm and intimate relationships, there's also questions of hate, aggression, those kinds of things. But at the same time, there's also the possibility of students to take options from across the range of programmes in social sciences here at Birkbeck. And then if there's some particular issue or theme that somebody's particularly interested, that they can do that and meld that into their programme. But perhaps what's the most exciting is the opportunity for a piece of independent research in the dissertation. So you've done your work, you've begun to understand some key concepts from psychoanalytic theory as well as social theory. You've been able to apply that to particular topics like bodies, like racism, like sexuality or care. It's bringing together difficult, complex issues, but in ways that make sense for particular students, as individuals or as groups. And then the last area of study as well that students will have the opportunity to do on the programme is, and oftentimes this might be to work together, is to think about how can these questions be researched in a way. So there'll be some fieldwork modules running alongside where students will be able to explore aspects of their kind of public and digital world, if you like. Maybe working together to take a theme and say, how could we write and develop a website or a blog around this? What would that mean? So there's some practical things where they're thinking about an issue that's important to them And then they think, how can we get a public around this? How can we put our ideas out there? And in the process, they're actually working with exactly the same things that they would have been studying, including the institutional infrastructures, if you like, through which ideas are disseminated and made sense of.